really nice. The series of events was a lot yesterday. It was like the peak of Basel, I felt. So much. Yeah. You, did you come to ICA? Oh no, yeah, you probably had some.
Our mic's on.
Hey, I think we're good to go. We have a green light. Thank you so much. Thank you for joining us this afternoon at Art Basel in Miami for what is the second of the Tezos series of talks over the next 2 days. I'm really thrilled to be here with Chanel and Mo. We're going to start with a little round of introductions. Oh, and I should say, we also have Giuliano, who is joining us digitally. Hey, Giuliano.
Hi, how's it going?
We have you by audio. This is good. I can see you. Oh, you're there. Cool. So I'll start off. I'm Holly Wood. I'm the CEO and founder of Hollywood Labs. We're a Web3 advisory agency. I've been working with the team at Tezos probably for the last almost 2 years, formerly when I was in my role at Rarible as head of artist relationships. So I have a kind of a long connection with this specific blockchain. So I'm excited to talk about that kind of topic, about how blockchain and Tezos in particular and NFTs are kind of like doing good or can do good or can be a catalyst for change in the world. So Chanel, would you do a really quick intro?
Hello, my name is Chanel Verdolt. I'm the head of curation at Unicorn DAO. It's a DAO that is co-founded by Pussy Riot. And what we do is we're a collector's DAO that focuses on women, non-binary, and queer art to build a museum and collection of the future and making sure that the diversity is much more equal than what we're currently seeing in the traditional art world and crypto art space, which in 2021, Art Tactic said that only 5% of art sales and acquisition of collections were female. And so we're definitely trying to continue to raise this percentile.
Thank you. Mo.
And my name is Mo Gonam. I'm the founder of Arts Help. Arts Help is a not-for-profit, and we're a digital community of 20 million people around the world, spread across 225 social media channels. We also publish content through our editorial and also through billboards. So we're distributed in 140 markets in the USA, Canada, parts of Africa, the Middle East. And we really like to look at art as a catalyst for social change. So in partnership with the United Nations, we have adopted the 17 Sustainable Development Goals. Who here is familiar with the 17 Sustainable Development Goals? Okay, so we've got a couple of people. So the 17 Sustainable Development Goals were developed by the UN in everything ranging from climate change to no poverty, good health and education for everybody, and achieving those goals by 2030. So we really like to look at projects and how art can be a catalyst for change and achieve these 17 Sustainable Development Goals. In 2021, we launched our biggest initiative. It was called Conscious Crypto Creator, and it's a $3.5 million artist grant to help them use their NFTs, projects, and digital art for climate change.
Amazing, thank you. And Giuliano.
Hi, my name is Juliano Salgado. I am a filmmaker. I was nominated for an Oscar in 2015, but I'm here today as the vice president of the board of the Instituto Terra in Brazil. The Instituto Terra is a NGO that restore forests, tropical forests in Brazil. We have restored about 700 hectares so far. We are planting this year 220,000 trees. We'll be planting another 600,000 next year, and about 1 million here on from now, in about 2 years' time onwards. What we're doing now, the program we started this year, is actually a double program. One of them is to take our forest, that's 700 hectares, and augment it to 5,700 hectares, which is a massive area. This represents about 15 million trees to be planted in the next 5 years. And we are also starting now another program that's very ambitious, that will transform the way we raise cattle in a region that's about the size of the state of New York. And we have this program that will come to maturity in about 5 years' time. And the idea of this program, the effect it will have on society, is that it will not only demonstrate that you can actually raise cattle under the shadow of trees, but it will prove that this is the most rational, economical way of doing it. And the way we are calculating it is that in about 5 years' time, this will be the most rational way, proven rational way of raising cattle in this region. And from 5 to 10 years, we'll be able to reverse the effects of global change in our region. And those effects are very simple. It's raining about 50% of what it used to rain only 10 years ago. There's a desert starting to expand about 150 kilometers away from us. And so our work is not only urgent, it's not only happening in a place that's actually in a process of desertifying, but it's also going to maybe the only initiative that I've heard of. Of course, it's not the only one, but it's one of the very few initiatives that is proposing to reverse climate change by creating value for the people that work with cattle, augmenting the value of their cattle, the value of their lands, the amount of cattle they can produce. And we will start to associate agriculture with reforestation instead of the opposite. So it's quite a revolution we're starting in Brazil. And I'm very proud to be able to present this to you today.
And so talking on the point of revolution, and we're going to talk quite a bit about climate because, of course, we're here with Tezos. But because we're at and probably one of the most well-known art fairs globally, Chanel, I wanted to talk to you a little bit about discourse and conversation. I know you had an incredible event yesterday. Will you tell us a little bit about that? Because I'm really interested in the idea about how discourse, conversation really kind of helps move blockchain forward, and how important that is for digital artists. I'm sort of reluctant to call them Web3 artists, digital artists, talking to contemporary artists, this kind of like conversation between them, and how kind of like blockchain can like support that conversation. Or tell us a bit more about the event yesterday though.
Definitely. I mean, first and foremost, Tezos and their whole ecosystem just really is so sound with us because of the clean NFT initiative. And that's so important in Web3 and the digital revolution. But a bit about last night is we had such a magical event with two feminist queer icons, Judy Chicago and Nadia Tolikonikova of Pussy Riot. And it was at ICA for Art Basel, celebrating this coalescence and emergence of a full circle moment of Judy Chicago, who's been fighting the good fight for, various decades that I can list on my hands, and also Nadia, who has been so rigorous in her efforts of making sure that we're paying attention to a series of events that are unfolding right now before our eyes, almost like an avalanche. And, providing these feminist manifestos that Judy Chicago actually constructed on tapestries with Dior. And Maria Grazia Ciuri, the director and creative director of Dior, that is the first actually to be a woman to design and creative direct Dior, which is quite a loud statement. And so Judy and Maria were heavily inspired by making What If Women Ruled the World? And Nadia and Judy got together and created a series of 12 questions about wombs, about abortion rights, about being a woman, about what if men and women were equal, and so on and so forth. And so last night we celebrated a panel discussion and kind of an emergence of taking note of they are almost like spiritual art twin flames. Nadia is most known for overthrowing an Orthodox Russian church and about 10 years ago, and Vladimir Putin throwing her in jail because of what she did with her feminist performance art group, and Judy also doing many different series of performance art installations of 4 cheerleaders with the words cunt all over the shirts, like a varsity jacket, and Nadia having 4 of her Russian performance artist mates also completely in the same juxtaposition of this installation, but it's a 50-year difference. And so kind of just observing and celebrating that the apple doesn't fall far from the tree, that women supporting women, non-binary, queer creators are here for each other, but we need to continue to educate the world that there is no difference between gender, and that we need to move forward with all being equal and distilling these values in not only art, but just everyday interactions. And so social justice is just an implementation for evolution of, I think, of our subconscious and the way that we treat others and see the world.
And I was going to say, in terms of like women using their bodies as their actual work, it's super interesting because you have people like artists like Marina Abramovic, who minted her first piece of work on Tezos very recently. It's an incredible series of work. I know that was kind of like a seminal piece. And then literally I was walking up here and I saw a Barbara Kruger piece. So that kind of like tradition, for me, like it's the way that blockchain can give voice to other artists using their form and their expression in whatever way that might manifest. We talk quite a lot about Tezos being like low barrier to entry, and so yeah, I'm excited about seeing more artists, more female artists expressing themselves or using blockchain. I guess the question for us in the room, or people in the space, is how we create kind of like platforms to be able to showcase that work. And I guess that's where kind of like curation comes in.
Entirely. And, I think that we're not only giving voice but allegiance to emerging and established artists, and that people like Marina or Judy or Jenny Holzer that have all worked with Nadia and Unicorn DAO know that we are this generation and the next generation that is making it okay to do what we want and bend the rules, so that actually we're shaping something that continues to evolve and grow as a feminist collective. And, Marina going with Tezos and working with Circa in London with Joseph was a clear example of her value system, that she wanted to work with this ecosystem on the blockchain, but do it quite intentionally. Same with Judy and Jenny Holzer. I mean, having these installations with Nadia from Pussy Riot is something that they see in her and Nadia sees in them. And Unicorn DAO is the catalyst for this social change and action.
I think one of the things that I want to touch on also with Tezos is they've done such a tremendous job at providing solutions for platforms like us who have millions and millions of creators within our community. So one of the first projects that we partnered with Tezos on was actually providing a white label solution for other corporations that were looking to enter into the NFT space. So we were able to build a platform. It's actually called Platforms, PLTFRMS. And essentially it enables any company who wants to curate art, feature NFTs, to be able to go in and create their own storefront. And it was just such an easy to use platform, and it enabled us to actually make a decision fairly quick, because we spent years being very cautious about the education side and learning and teaching our community about NFTs, because it is it is so new and it's still evolving. I feel like almost every day there's something new to learn, and we kind of took a back seat. Rather than trying to monetize, we took the approach of how do we educate? How do we help our community in this space and excel in this space? So working with Tezos, I found that that barrier to entry has been really great, and we found that our community and beyond, even in the private sector, they've been getting really excited about being in this space sustainably, because when we first started, we were really focused in on the difference between proof of stake and proof of work. It was a big conversation, and a lot of people didn't really understand the difference, and they were getting into this space, and they weren't even familiar with the environmental impacts of their work. And there was a lot of conversation in the early days about artists finding out once it's a little too late. So I think what's been really great to see is just the accessibility, and that barrier to entry has been made so accessible now just through some of the resources and the technology that Arts Help has been able to use, and just the feedback that we've received from our creator community. It's made a huge impact. So I think, as we talk about climate change and as we talk about environmental impacts and how NFTs can make the world a better place, I think accessibility and education, those are all key elements that, events like this and talks, panels like this really help, people who are here today wanting to learn more and engage in the space, and especially people who are trying to have a movement, trying to push forward a movement.
And actually, that leads me to Giuliano. Will you tell us a little bit about how NFTs and blockchain has formed part of your project? Because obviously the project existed way before kind of like Web3 was kind of like a thing.
Yes, the way we have thought about the way we think the NFT solution is not exactly a solution in itself, right? For us, the real issue is how we can. We are located in Brazil, right? So we are doing this work that we feel is very, very important, not only for the region we are in, but for the whole world. And one of the issues we have is that we have a big difficulty to find support from the government. Our government, everybody knows about it, has been for the last 4 years. A government that had an aversion, that was the enemy of ecology, right? And so we couldn't count on them. The local state governments are very difficult to work with. And we exist for the last 24 years. We have a forest that has grown completely, and that we planted 24 years ago. So we have a full work, but we've never been able to count on public money, investments. And this is all, it's not that expensive, but we need money to grow trees, to plant trees, to convince people that they will be better off growing whatever culture they do, whether it's cattle, coffee, or cocoa, under the shadow of trees. With water, we bring water back. We're capable of planting trees that will bring water back. And so there is a whole lot of beneficial issues and beneficial, what we do brings a lot of benefits to the community in which we are inserted, but we have big difficulties to find support. So we thought of the NFT as a way of reaching out to a community of people around the world that will be able to support us. Of course, we have monetized it, but not very much. The idea is not monetization either. The idea is that we can have many voices that will be able to bring our programs, what we do, and reach out, to a community that is meant to be as large as possible. And I think our program is very, very strong. It's urgent. It's quite unique. And but the fact we are located in the interior of Brazil, that we don't have the support of our local, government, state government, federal government, makes it very difficult for us to be able to transform, this environment. And we need to transform it. And we know there is a huge amount of people that is looking out, and it's looking out for initiatives like ours that will be able to not only raise awareness and consciousness, but is actually offering a solution that will not only make the life of the people in our region better, it's a solution to actually bring rain back, to bring water back, to invert the changes, the terrible changes that are being provoked by global warmth, global change, climate change. So we need to reach out to this community. We felt young people. When I say young people, and I'm betraying my age, I'm thinking 35 years old down, right? So not so young, maybe, the people that are, in the, you guys could be, our supporters, maybe, if you want to. That would be amazing, to be able to count with you. But we're looking out for people that are ready to join us and to support us. And we thought the NFT is exactly the right media to do it.
Can I just ask, what kind of support are you looking for when you say you're not getting government support, and what is that support that you're seeking for your project?
So what we of course, we look for money in order to be able to implement our programs, but what we do is not that expensive. So we actually look for public support. We look for people that will. The way we think it is that when someone lives in a big city and wants to make a change, in the climate, a lot of the time this person can only make very minor changes. You still have to buy food in the same grocery shop. You can try to select your products better, but the change you can make only goes, in the margins. And so we think a lot of people are looking for a way to delegate their power of transformation. And we carry a massive power of transformation, but we haven't reached out to enough people yet. So as soon as we start having a community that supports us in social media, that join us into thinking, some of our projects, some of our programs, we are opening up, to be able to have a direct communication with this community. We feel that as soon as this narrative, this true narrative, right? When we speak about narrative, a lot of the time we speak about fantasy narrative, but this is something that's happening 25 years, that started happening 25 years ago. So it's real. As soon as this reality starts reaching out to more people, we'll be able to pressure our governments, to pressure whatever agency is there to finance the kind of program that we propose, and we'll be able to augment our power of transformation. So this is what we're looking for at the moment with NFTs.
I think that's really interesting. You touched on the point of community. And of course, people are the source of change. I'm a firm believer in that. And so I was going to ask you, Chanel, about the DAO. Obviously, it's very community-driven. Will you talk to us a little bit more about the Unicorn DAO community?
Of course. So Unicorn DAO right now is a collector's DAO. In order to be a member, you have to acquire a seat. And this is directly reinvested in the DAO. So if you perhaps become a member at 50 ETH, it's because you're buying the future of women, queer, and non-binary art to build this vault, this collection that is so crucial to the ecosystem, especially because so much of the space, we got posted in Gagosian Quarterly, and Nadia made a really amazing cheeky statement saying that it's very crypto bro focused. And when I first met Nadia from Pussy Riot, I actually rescued her from the Bored Ape Yacht Club line in NFT NYC, and she said, "What the hell am I doing here?" I said, "Yeah, what are you doing here?" But it was with a project that I previously worked with, not the Bored Apes, but someone else in a gallery. And we both promised each other that we would never arrive to this point ever again, because it was just so, it was just so against our values of there's not equality in the space, and we have to work every day, all the time at building this community. But just like meeting women like you and all the amazing non-binary, queer, and female creators in the space, the more that we really have this chain link reaction, the stronger that it gets. But we do need to talk about it, because it is an elephant in the room, and until we talk about it, nothing is going to progress. So I think that just being able to really speak about diversity and making sure that things are more equal is super important. And on the other hand, I mean, we have this feminist manifesto that we're building, but also art and activism is so central, and it's a very balanced scale. And so just an example of building community is building community in the moment when it's the most important. And I think some of the greatest success that we've had is Nadia and John Caldwell, our co-founders, have done very, very beautiful, fast work at responding to the war in Ukraine, raising almost $7 million by deploying a multi-sig Ukraine DAO.eth, creating a mintable Ukrainian flag, and making sure that the funds are directly sent to the country, because we knew that their bank accounts were completely shut down. They were being completely silenced in so many different ways of trying to support their family, their loved ones, anything. And
that was set up really very quickly,
it was
right?
set up in minutes. And they raised $7 million in less than a week. And after that, 6 months later, Roe versus Wade was overturned. And that was a very painful day for us, with abortion and everything. Starting legalabortion.eth raised, 6 figures in a week as well. And so creating these different multi-sig wallets so that we can invest in Ukraine or Planned Parenthood is so important. And so we're continuing to do this work. But I think it really woke the world up of like, wow, whoa, there's this different ecosystem that people are supporting. And because the internet is so forthright and we're using social media and activism for a catalyst of change, just like Tezos with the environment and clean NFTs, we're able to create things so much faster than we did before.
And I think that's what I'm really enjoying seeing is these collective of artists or creators or activists coming together in these communities that they form themselves. It's totally organic.
I think it's so interesting because when artists get behind something, the world pays attention. When you think about some of the biggest movements like Black Lives Matter, it could have never been the galvanizing movement without the anthemic music, the incredible photography, and just the large-scale, block-sized murals that captivated and united the world. And in a similar way, large-scale artworks in the earliest days of the Ukraine invasion helped unite the world against Russia. And I was part of a documentary where on October 10th, we took a train from Poland into Kyiv, and that was the day that Ukraine was attacked. And our train continued to ride into Kyiv. And the reason why we were there to profile artists of Ukraine that were using their artwork to fight and help rebuild their country. So as we got into Ukraine, we went directly into a bomb shelter. And I spent the next 7 to 10 days there. And every time we'd be on set profiling and working with some of the artists, we'd have to stop everything and find a bomb shelter. And it felt like it was nearly impossible to actually continue the work because we spent more times in bomb shelters than we did actually with the artists. And I had to ask every single artist as part of this documentary, how are you paying for your flats? How are you paying for your studios? And it was through NFTs. Every single artist, whether they were a graffiti, whether they were an illustrator, a fashion designer, they were all using NFTs as a way of survival to pay for their livelihood, their families, and to basically continue to do what they do. And when you talk about the DAO and you talk about its impact and artists coming together and community and building community, I think that is so important. And we have a lot of power when we unite and get behind a cause. And it's so interesting, this is like a month and a half ago, and I'm still in contact with all of our cast members for this documentary. And they're constantly using their artwork and their NFTs to continue to push it out. And right now it's been so challenging because of the power outages, lack of resources, but through social media and digital media, they've been able to have support from other artists and other people from around the world that are continuing to push their projects out. So it really has, I saw it firsthand when you talk about, you know, the impact and being on ground. It is the reason why a lot of these artists and creative community is still alive and being able to do what they do.
It's incredibly powerful. Thank you for sharing that experience with us. Juliana, I was going to talk to you a little bit about legacy. Obviously, lots of artists really strive to create legacy with their work. And obviously what you're doing, you know, the outcomes, I was so impressed that you're actually seeing results already, and that, you know, you're talking about 5 to 10 years. This is not a long kind of period of time to be able to actually see the change that you're making. Do you kind of like consider how working with the blockchain, for instance, supports that kind of like legacy story? Does that come into play at all for you guys?
To be quite honest with you, we are at the starting of this adventure. So we have made a drop of NFTs end of September, about 5,000 NFTs. We have now a community of about 3,000 people, and we feel this is, for us, it's a great success. And what we're building is really a long-term project. When you speak about restoration of ecosystem in Brazil, you're not only speaking about planting trees, but you're speaking about restoring economies. You're speaking about bringing dignity for a lot of people that have very, very small lands, that have a big difficulty to survive on those, you know, desertifying places. We're speaking about reinforcing democracy through developing all sorts of educational program related with the general issues related with democracy issues, but also trying to, through social media, but also through philosophy courses. It sounds, you know, maybe very, you know, out far, but actually we are managing to create a consciousness where there was no consciousness of how powerful citizens can become when they actually start sharing their views and understanding the world in which they are inserted. And so this is all work that come with a restoration. So it's not only a restoration of, you know, of trees, of ecosystem, an ecosystemic restoration. It's also a way of restoring the concepts of citizenship and the idea that everyone can think itself in order to be a complete citizen and to understand the society that they are inserted in. And we really feel, but it's an intuition, we haven't been able to test it yet and to make it work and to see how this is going to work and what sort of dynamic this is going to bring to us. But we feel that those communities that are, and listening to you, you know, I'm even more convinced of that. We feel that those communities that use the NFTs as a way of exchanging, a way of communicating, a way of surviving, those communities are the communities that we want to reach out. That they are the communities that will, you know, be touched by what we do, that will feel, you know, the same call as we feel, you know, the need for transformation and the idea that we need to do more than what's been doing, and we need to find each other in order to support each other, in order to be able to promote those big changes, those very important changes. I feel that the way our societies have been going so far somehow brought us to an impasse. We need to think social media, we need to think the internet in a way that's proactive, that will be able to transport the values that we defend, you know, to a broader number of people. And we need to be able to connect with each other in order to be able to make a difference. If I'm isolated in Brazil, in the state of Minas Gerais, I can do so much, I can only do so much. And so I have a great feeling that this is the way to communicate with intellectuals, with artists, with all sorts of people that are fighting with very important issues and issues that connect and that echoes, with the issues that we're fighting for. I don't know if that answers your question.
Yeah, no, absolutely it does. And it kind of like makes me think about societal change. And one of the great things that obviously in Web3 is that like it's largely born from cryptocurrencies. One of the strengths for me is that they're borderless. And I think we touched on that a little bit. But it also means that it has greater opportunity for global impact, I think. Have you kind of noticed in terms of the work that you do as a curator, Chanel, how you're working with artists from kind of like further afield that maybe you wouldn't have been aware of before?
I mean, I come from the traditional art world my whole life, and so, it's kind of like a full circle moment again, except that we're really deconstructing everything that was once quote-unquote proper, and the only way through hierarchies, through a certain system and opportunity that you either get or you don't. And I think that crypto completely decentralizes it at its core to be able to, people like us, the way that I curate, know that I'm going against the grain and that I'm really lucky that I work with someone like Nadia and John, the co-founders, that let me do what I want, because they know that if I do what I want, it's going to be actually making a difference in giving artists a more fair and equal opportunity. I mean, we could spend the rest of our whole lives finding creative talent every single second of our day. And there are so many talented artists that just need one chance to break through to this barrier, and so what we're doing is taking not only the artists in crypto, but the artists in the traditional art world and the artists that we just discover on our radar in that moment, and we all vote as a DAO to either foster or collect or, even give them pointers, like anyone from Marina Abramovich to an artist coming from the traditional art world, going into crypto or needing to be onboarded into tokenizing their collection. We're here to do anything and everything just out of love in making sure that they're set up for success and that they feel supported. And every single artist that we've worked with has told us from the very beginning of taking a call with us that it's just so different, that they do feel like this has never happened in their entire career, which is just a really beautiful feather in our cap. I think it's a mutual relationship to have and be feeling appreciated and appreciate the work, because when you have those sides of the spectrum be equal, it's just a better input and output of having like this feedback loop. As my dear friend in the audience, Sasha Stiles, and Connie Bakshi has said, the work that they do in AI it's not input and outputs, it's more of a loop. And I think that we do have an infinity of caring for the artist and supporting the artist in our network of Unicorn DAO.
And then Mo, you really do work with such a huge range of artists. Are they all visual artists?
No, so we define art as more than just a painting on the wall. So we celebrate music, illustration, video, you name it. So we've seen all types of artists try to NFT and get into this space. And it's been really interesting working with them. And we take a very similar approach to you, where we really try to be as hands-on as possible and create as much utility as possible. So we've launched things like an NFT creator app on the mobile. And we've had over 300,000 people download it. And it's actually not branded Arts Help. It's just called NFT App Creator, and you go in and you create and design your NFT, and it teaches you how to mint your work. It gives you utility and tools to draw and create your NFT. So we also created a series of mini masterclasses that are digital, and you can just go in and go through these mini masterclasses and learn everything about crypto and blockchain 101, environmental impacts, how to get into this space. So we try to keep it neutral. We try to provide as much resources as possible. I think it is really important. So we don't try to push out like a platform that's ours. We try to push out, and guide the artists into the right direction of success when it comes to entering in this space. So it is really interesting because we've even seen writers that will reach out to us and say, hey, I'm a journalist. How do I NFT my work that I'm writing? And it's really cool just being able to navigate that through with them. And it's taught us a lot, and it's made us grow our team tremendously to keep up. But we found that utility is a really great way of being able to reach so many different artists, whether it's through apps or it's through the mini masterclasses that we launched. But yeah, it is really interesting. We work with all types of artists.
Juliana, we're going to start wrapping up fairly soon, but I just wanted to ask you before we go, it's almost 2023, we are now in December, although this is always so odd when you're in Miami and it's very, very warm here. But 2023, Juliana, are there things, obviously your project is very long term, in the next kind of 12 months, what's going to be the focus for you?
So we are planting right now. This is a rainy season for us. We're planting 220,000 trees. We'll be planting another 600,000 next year. We are planning to launch another NFT, and this time, the fact that someone spoke about decentralization, I think that's very important. And we, as soon as we consolidate our community, we want to start launching NFTs that are not art related. The first that we launched, we used photographies of Sebastião Salgado, the photographer, and we are planning to launch actually part of restoration, part of a new grown forest, a forest that will be planted with the support of our community. So this is what we're looking for next year. Keep doing the work that we're doing and try to expand reaching out to a community of people that actually share our values.
Thank you. And Chanel, 2023, what are you going to grow? What are you going to break? What are you going to disrupt? I'm hoping there's going to be an exhibition at some point, a physical show.
We're always breaking and disrupting as much as we can all the time, so there's the answer to that. But in 2023, I think you're going to see the collection grow in numbers more than we have. And we're going to be fostering many things to come that I can't give alpha about, but you will see exhibitions that take place internationally, and Art Basel is just the tip of the iceberg to have, Nadia and Judia come together, supporting Marina in her project of Calling Upon Heroes, Jenny Holzer and Nadia doing the public installation in New York, and just growing the collection so that we can continue to diversify the gap, which is so important because it's still very, very low. And so, case in point, we just need to keep on really fighting the good fight. And it's not going to happen in a year. It's probably going to see more of a social change in 5 to 10 years.
And it's not going to happen quietly.
Never, never. I mean, coming from the co-founder that's a riot girl and myself, it's going to be loud, but we're going to do it proper.
We'll be there. And Mo?
For us, it's really just about empowering our community. We launched with $3.5 million in artist grants, and now we're actually starting to see the work from the artists that received the grants come to life. So we're really excited about 2023 being that big year where we can use our distribution model to really elevate those projects. They're all, purpose-led, impact-based climate action projects. And then our goal is to really just build out more utility and resources. As we continue to evolve in this industry, there's a lot more room for education and being able to provide that to our creator economy.
Amazing, thank you. That just leaves it for me to say thank you so much to our guests.
What about you? What's 2023?
2023 for me. It's already shaping up to be a very busy quarter one. Yeah, I'm the same as Chanel. Probably can't say too much, but there's a lot happening. I work a lot on the brand partnership side, so I'm working with some really nice partners for next year. So yeah, I'm very excited to see what's going to happen. I'm particularly excited about NFT Paris coming up in February. That's going to be our next stop to see our, I think that it's going to be another moment in the calendar. So that was why I was asking about like an exhibition program, because I can kind of like already foresee Unicorn DAO popping up.
Entirely, and I mean, you foster artists and brands from the start too, which is very maternal, you know, but it's much needed. And I imagine we're going to talk after of what your plans are, so I'm super excited for the alpha.
I have never thought of it like that. I like that. Thank you. Thank you so much, and thank you to Tezos, thank you to Art Basel. But we're going to stick around. We didn't take questions because we're going to be here. Come chat with us. This is one of the things you'll find about the Web3 space and artists, collectors, curators in the space. The sharing is very real. So please do come chat with us after if you have any questions. Thank you so much.